Another day is here, and you're ready for it. What to wear? Check. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Check. Planning for what's next and how to save for it? That's where Bank of America can help. For your financial to-dos, Bank of America has experts ready to help get you closer to your goals. Get started at one of our local financial centers or 24/7 in our mobile banking app. Find a location near you at bankofamerica.com/talktous. What would you like the power to do? Mobile banking requires downloading the app and is only available for select devices. Message and data rates may apply. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to anfieldindexpro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Red, your lunchtime catch on all things Liverpool FC on a Thursday on which nothing is happening. But there has been an episode of the Under the Cosh podcast, and if you don't know that podcast, I would highly recommend the episodes with Simon Ferry, which are just brilliant. Him talking about Thomas Gravison and Paolo Di Canio, absolutely incredible stuff. But on the latest episode, Stephen Warnock was on with them. And obviously, Stephen Warnock is a former Red, currently a dreadful commentator who seems to take issue with certain players in our team who are much better players than he was, but he decides he doesn't rate them and spends most of his afternoons when commentating on our games slating them. He came through our academy. He's obviously a local boy from our Ormskirk, and spent 5 years as a quote-unquote first-team player, but was on loan at Bradford in the 2002 season, on loan at Coventry the following year. Didn't play for Liverpool in either the 02 or 03 season, 02-03 or 03-04 seasons, but in 04-05, he played 19 league games and 30 games overall. He'd play 30 the following season and then 7 the season after that before being sold to Blackburn Rovers. He spent about 3.5 years there. He spent 4 years or so at, I think 3 years at Villa, but 4 years contracted to them or whatever. Sold to Leeds, played for Leeds for 3 years, went to Derby for I think a year and a half. And then he finished off at Wigan, Burton Albion, and a loan to Bradford City. Played right up until the 17-18 season. So he did have a long career. And in that career, he won 2 caps for England, one in 08, one in 2010. He won the UEFA Super Cup with us. Technically, he won, well, no, he actually won the Champions League with us as well, because he did play in that Champions League run in 05. And he won the Football League One with Wigan in 15-16 when he was there on loan for the back half of the season. So that's his career. He has come out on the Kosh podcast and off the Kosh on whatever. And he's basically said that, you know, he's never forgiven Rafa Benitez for not including him in the final squad for the European Cup final. And he has slated Benitez's man management, said that, you know, tactically he was great, but as a man manager, absolutely terrible. And that's something that's been leveled at Rafa for much of his career. I'm sure most people old enough remember that when he was at Valencia, he was quite unpopular with his players, but obviously had great success there, winning 2 La Liga titles and a UEFA Cup. And there were reports and stories, which were verified by certain players in their own autobiographies, that when Benitez left Valencia, many of the players had a party. And that while Liverpool fans were excited that we might potentially sign Roberto Ayala or Pablo Aimar or some of the other really good players he had there, the truth was that none of them had any interest in playing for him again. So, it's fair enough to say that Rafa, not the best man manager. I think Carragher's talked about it as well, and about how he could be quite cold and distant from the players. And that's because Rafa took the approach. He didn't want to have that closeness with them because he didn't want to be too loyal to them. He didn't want to fall into the trap that Jurgen has fallen into, where loyalty has cost him. Now, obviously, Rafa didn't have the success with Liverpool that Jurgen has had. But, you stack their careers up side by side, and they've had similar enough amounts of success, I suppose. If we pull up Rafa's list of honours, obviously the 2 titles with Valencia, the European Cup with Valencia, moves on to us, wins the Champions League and the FA Cup. At Chelsea, he wins the Europa League. He won the Coppa Italia with Napoli, and he won the Championship with Newcastle. Jurgen, obviously, 2 league titles with Dortmund, league title, Champions League with us. Jurgen, more league titles, probably the same amount of cups. No, Jurgen's won 1 cup more. 1 cup more. Because he won the FA Cup, which Rafa also won. He won a League Cup, which Rafa won a Coppa Italia, which is more important than the League Cup. But Jurgen won a second League Cup. So Jurgen has him just slightly there. But Jurgen will be held in a higher esteem, especially at Liverpool, because he did win the League and the European Cup. And Rafa failed to win the League. But obviously, Istanbul is Istanbul. Anyway, back to the point of Stephen Warnock's gripe. So Stephen Warnock has said that, when the final training session before the European Cup final took place, the squad was posted in the dressing room and for the final, and that his name was listed in the squad. And that he rushed home, rang his family, told them, get on the plane, I'm in the squad, whatever. And then he got a phone call from Paco Hierstein, was obviously the assistant manager, telling him that there'd been a mistake, that he wasn't in the squad. And Warnock calls Rafa basically a shithouse, that he didn't have the courage to call him himself, and said that he went, obviously, to the final as part of the travelling group, but wasn't going to play. And Benitez said to him after the final, I'll talk to you in a couple of days. And Warnock said he lost all respect for Benitez at that point. And then he made some comments about Josemi, who's the player that was selected instead of him. And he said that he'd been out injured all season. Well, that isn't true, because Josemi had started 13 league games and made 2 appearances off the bench that year. Now, Warnock had played 11 starts and 8 off the bench. So he played more games in the league. But in the European Cup, Josemi had started 5 and come off the bench in 2. So he played in 7 games. Warnock had only started 2. He had come off the bench in 4, but again, only started 2. When you look at the squad that we had for that final, it's pretty easy to understand why Rafa would rather have Josemi than Stephen Warnock. Because we had Steve Finnan at right back, who'd been carrying a bit of a knock, and he was the only right back in the squad, unless you wanted to move Carragher from centre-back to right back. The issue with doing that is the only other option we would have had to move into centre-back next to Sami Hyypiä was Jimmy Traore. Warnock obviously was a left back. We had Jimmy. We also had John Arnorisa, who could play there. So it made more sense to bring another right back, given the shortage of centre-backs, and Josemi was just a more sensible fit. So I'm not really sure Warnock's gripe holds up all that well, to be completely honest with you. I don't really feel like he has a proper leg to stand on. And it did seem like his main gripe was that he didn't get the 200 grand bonus that all the players who were in the matchday squad got for being in the squad and winning the game. Now, he said after that Gerrard said to him after, look, we'll get you your money. And he never got it. But, like, I'm not being funny, but Stephen Warnock, you had a 15-year pro career. I'm sure you made really, really good money. Like, you were playing in the Premier League for a long time. 04, 05, 05, 06, 06, 07, 07, 08, 08, 09, 09, 10, 10, 11, and 11, 12. Like, that's 8 years of Premier League football on Premier League wages. And even in the Championship, it's not like you went to small clubs. You had the loan at Bolton. Villa would have been paying your wages. You're still on your Villa contract. You went to Leeds. Leeds were ambitious and paying good money. Then you went to Derby, another club that were paying good money. So I've got to imagine he's got a tidy sum in the bank. I get that 200 grand is 200 grand, but compared to a 15-year career, what you would have earned, and I'm sure you're earning good money now. You're a pundit for everybody. Like, he has worked for everybody. BBC, BT Sport, DAZN, Quest TV, and NBC Sports have all paid him to be either a pundit or a commentator. Like, let it go. Let it go. If he didn't get a medal, if his gripe had been that he didn't get a medal, then I would be like, you know what, fair enough. That's a legitimate gripe to have, because you did play a part in that run to the final. You absolutely did. 2 starts, 4 appearances off the bench. Bear in mind that in that run, we had 6 games in the group, 2 in the round of 16, 2 in the quarterfinals, 2 in the semi-finals, and 1 in the final. We played 13 games. He played in 6 of them, almost half. It would be half if you could half us at 13. So he did play his part. But so did Josemi. He played a bigger part than Stephen Warnock did. So to gripe about him being in the squad, and then I think Carragher at some point has said something like, lads that hadn't kicked a ball all year. Again, he played 7 times in the run. He started 5 games. For a period, he was starting in the team and then he got injured. And yeah, he got front and centre for the pictures. Everybody would. Everybody would. But Warnock described it as he's next to Gerrard trying to grab the cup. He's not. There's video footage of it. And they overlay it over the podcast. And he's not trying to grab the cup at all. The hand closer to Gerrard is actually down by his side. It's the other hand, the right hand, he has up in the air. And Gerrard's to his left. Stephen Warnock was a solid player. A solid player. And he had a run with Blackburn and Villa where he was one of the 10 best left-backs in the Premier League. Each season, if you were listing the 10 best left-backs, of that 6-year run, 5.5-year run, there's probably 3 of them where Stephen Warnock was one of the 10 best left-backs in the league. But of course, at that point, England did have some pretty good left-backs. There was a fella called Ashley Cole. There was a fella called Leighton Baines. They were good players. There was a few others as well knocking around. Those would be the primary ones. Wayne Bridge, another very good left back, would have been better than Warnock, but he still managed to earn 2 caps, and nobody can take them away from him. But it's funny to me. He's had this really, really good career, like a really good career. Played in the Premier League for 8 years, was a pro for 16 years. And yet he's entirely caught up in this one thing that happened 13 years before he retired. Like, before anybody really knew who you were outside of Liverpool. It's really, really odd that that's what he clings to, not his England caps. Like, that's what he should be focusing on. The fact that he got to play for and represent his country. The fact that at a time he was seen as one of the best English left backs in the game. An odd fella, a dreadful commentator. But, just get over it. Build a bridge and get over it. If you weren't given a medal, and if he'd been griping about not being given a medal, I'd have said, you know what, he's absolutely right. And that's something the club should rectify. Even if the club have to have the medals made, that's something the club should rectify for anybody that played a part in that Champions League run and didn't get a medal. Like, we see Ryan Brewster walking around with a Champions League medal these days. He didn't kick a ball. Stephen Warnock would have a legitimate reason to be annoyed if he didn't get a medal. And if he didn't, that's what he should gripe about. There's a really good piece on This Is Anfield about Arne Slot. I followed Arne Slot at Feyenoord. Here's why Liverpool have made the right move. It's written by Joe Baker, and Joe's an Englishman living in the Netherlands, has done, I think, since 2000 or something like that. I looked at his Twitter bio earlier, and he follows Dutch football quite closely, and he's had a lot of good things to say about Arne Slot. Right. 20 of Jurgen Klopp's best Liverpool FC quotes. It felt right from the first moment. Let's go. You can fall down and then you must stand up. Only silly idiots stay on the floor. We will strike back 100%. That was said after the League Cup final defeat in 2016. I ask that you believe in this team and believe that together we can achieve great things. The team will go out and battle for you and look to represent you, the club and the city, in how we approach our work. This is my commitment. So there you go. I heard from my agent that Liverpool is interested, and I immediately felt, oh God, it's like when I met my wife. I saw her and thought, okay, I marry her. And it was like that with the club. It felt right from the first moment. That's a really good one.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mag boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
This is from after the game against Barcelona. I said to the boys, I think it's impossible, but because it's you, we have a chance, and we believed in this chance. I don't know how the boys did it. The boys are fucking mentality giants. It's unbelievable. We've all heard that one. I don't want to describe myself. I'm a totally normal guy. I come from the Black Forest. I'm the normal one. Let's talk about six, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and all the bad things that there may be. Brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. When Lallana jumped on his back and his glasses got broken after the 5-4 over Norwich, I usually have a second pair of glasses, but I can't find them because it's hard to find glasses without glasses. That's pretty good. Ox, when he ruined his knee, I told him already, we will wait for him like a good wife when her man is in prison. Interesting. When Alberto Moreno's goal was ruled out for offside against Newcastle, he had this to say about the linesman. Because we weren't good enough, the linesman thought you don't make a world-class goal if you play like shit, so you don't get the goal. That's fair. His first press conference as Liverpool manager was full of gems. If to change from a doubter to believer, we have to start together anew, and then we will see what will happen this year. The weight of Liverpool's history has been a heavy burden. All this time, people try to get better, to improve, and to take the next title. History is only the base for us, but you're not allowed to carry around your big history with you in a backpack. You need to be a big fucking backpack to carry the history of this club. If we sit here in 4 years, I think we win one title. If we don't win one title, then maybe it will have to be in Switzerland. There's a common joke about German managers who fail and they go to Switzerland to rehabilitate their career and then come back to Germany. If that's a quote to live by, if there's a quote to live by, it's this. That is the plan. Just try. If you can do it, wonderful. If not, fail in the most beautiful way. When Liverpool sold Phil Coutinho, you cannot transfer the heart and soul of Liverpool Football Club, although I am sure there are many clubs who would like to buy it. We created our own story and history and didn't try to do what our wonderful dads and grandfathers did with this club. If you had Wikipedia or Google and put in European nights, the answer must be Anfield. I've said this before, that football always seems the most important of the least important things. The dream is to have a team full of Scousers. What we want is the sport for everybody. What we want to be is the sport for everybody with a Scouse soul. And then the last two here, this is a very, very special club. I didn't make the fans believe. I reminded them that it helps when you believe. And this is the best club in the world. Don't care what other people think. So they're both very good as well. What else do we have here? Jurgen has been nominated for Manager of the Year. Virgil has been nominated for Premier League Player of the Season, and rightly so. I would say, though, Rodri wasn't on the list. He's been the best player in the league by a considerable margin. I mean, legitimately, the only two players you could put up against Rodri this season are Odegaard and Virgil. And Virgil has dipped in the last month. So it's Rodri or Odegaard, and Rodri has been, I would say, considerably better than Odegaard. And Rodri wasn't nominated. Let's see. Andreas Kornmeier is leaving the club. I would recommend everybody read Simon Hughes' article on him, well, on the medical department, but it doesn't paint him in a glowing light. Let's see, what else do we have? Sky Sports promise improved notice for kickoff changes, but not for the Premier League yet. So that doesn't really help us. All we know about the 6 staff members leaving with Jurgen this summer. So obviously Pep and Linders, Vitor Matas, John Achterberg is going, Peter Krautz is going, Andreas Schlumberger is going, and Andreas Kornmeier is going. Matos is the one that he's leaving, obviously, he's very close with Linders, and Linders will at some point take a job as a manager, and I'd imagine Vitor Matos will be his assistant. Schlumberger and Kornmeier, head of recovery and performance, head of fitness and conditioning. Will we miss them? Really? I'm not sure. And Arne Slot will bring his own assistant, so obviously, Krawietz wasn't going to stay in. And that's that. Fabio Carvalho has admitted to making a mistake in how he handled his withdrawal from international duty in 2022, but has made it clear which country he wishes to represent, and he has now pledged his allegiance back to Portugal. Fair enough. Good for him. Curious to see what happens with him in the coming season. Obviously a talented boy, but hard to see where he'll get games. He could be a backup 10, but Harvey can also play there. Gakpo can also play there. Depending on who the starter is, Dom could also play there. So I don't know what games he'll get, but definitely a talented player. Might be best out on loan again next season. There is a piece here on This Is Anfield about Willian Pacho. Neil Jones has said in a piece on Caught Offside that links to him have substance. Pacho doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us as a centre-back in a back four. He would have made a lot of sense as a centre-back in a back three, but not so much in a back four. But what he could make a lot of sense as is as a left-back, as a left-sided Gertrude. That would make a ton of sense. Now, he can develop into being a centre-back that works for us in a four, but he's not particularly good in the air at this point, and that's always one of the markers that we look for is aerial dominance. But he could be very, very good in that left-back role. He is very strong defensively, and he's comfortable on the ball. So would definitely be in favour of that move. Obviously, his international teammate Hincapié is another one that would potentially work really well in that kind of left-back role, who can slot into a back three, who can play in the defensive half space, invert into midfield when needed, play the Gertrude role, but on the left-hand side, which would allow Trent to play the Hartman role, but on the right-hand side, which would again suit Trent a lot more than the Gertrude role would. Said this after the Spurs game, the way we played in that game, the way Trent played and the way Mo played, that made a lot of sense for an Arne Slot left side, but obviously we did it on the right. So now we would need to build an Arne Slot right side on the left, and one of those centre-backs, be it Pacho, Inacio, Hincapié, Calafiori, any of them would be perfect. Even Levi Colwill would work well there. Now, he's not the quickest. He's not slow, but he's not the quickest, and that would be of a little bit of concern. Branthwaite could play that role. He has played some left back in his career, but Everton wouldn't sell to us. And I don't think we'd be willing to pay 80 million for a fellow off the back of one Premier League season, and nor should we. Good and all as he is, I think we'd have paid maybe 10 last summer off the season he had with PSV. But Pacho's the name that's doing the rounds at the moment. There's a piece on Liverpool.com about Jurgen's first 6 weeks at Liverpool. That's well worth a read. Liverpool shirt numbers available to new signings this summer. There's a piece about Pepe Reina. There's a piece about Darwin. Piece about Virgil being nominated for the Player of the Year. There's a piece about Arne Slot. There's a piece about Szoboszlai. Liverpool exits may be blessing in disguise for Arne Slot replacing Jurgen Klopp. A piece about Inacio. Another piece like the one on This Is Anfield about which of the staff are leaving. 8 players who've worn the captain's armband. Ex-Liverpool goalkeeper names 2 player of the season candidates, and I'm guessing by the picture it's Alexis McAllister and Mo Salah. There's a piece about Tyler Morton. Piece about Nico Williams. There's a report going around that Nico Williams is on 250 grand a week at Bilbao. I have a really tough time believing that, but you never know. It might be true. Right, so what shirt numbers are available? 6, 13, and 32. That's before you get into ridiculous numbers in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. We only have Kelleher, Trent, Quansah, and Bradley who are above 49. And Trent won't change 66, but Quansah and Bradley should have their numbers lowered this summer. There's a whole bunch of numbers there as well. A whole bunch of numbers that are available, like 12, 14, 15, 16, 22, 23. Those young players should be brought down to those numbers once they've done a bit in the first team. What else do we have here? Right, so the piece on Inacio. I assume that's caught offside reporting it. We were linked yesterday with Mohamed Amoura, who plays for Union Saint-Gilloise, and he scored against us in the Europa League, and he's been really good for them this season. Obviously, they're owned by Tony Bloom, who also owns Brighton, so he's in the Brighton network. And you would expect that if a player's good enough to move to the Premier League, it would be Brighton that would bring him across. But they passed on Victor Boniface last season for reasons that still haven't really been explained. Now, maybe it might just be that, they had Evan Ferguson, they were bringing in João Pedro, but I mean, they had Danny Welbeck. They could have binned off Welbeck and brought in Boniface. Boniface wasn't going to hamper the development of Evan Ferguson because Evan Ferguson's 18, 19 this year and a couple of years away from being ready to start every single game. Boniface was only ever going to stay a couple of years and you'd have been selling him for 100 million. So they dropped the ball there. I'm not sure they'll drop it again on Amoura, but this was his first season with Union. He's so far scored 20 goals. No, I think it's 24 goals for them. He was at Lugano for 2 years before that. He scored 10 and 36 and 6 and 27. The year before that, he was playing in his homeland of Algeria for ES Setif. He scored 17 and 44. Lightning quick. I reckon if we are looking at him, we'd be looking at him more as a wide option. He is properly rapid. But yeah, could be an interesting one to keep an eye on. He turns 24 today. So, he's about the right age. He'd be a squad player coming in. He wouldn't come in as a starter, but he'd fit the bill for what we do tend to look for. So again, might be one to keep an eye on. He is absolutely lightning quick. Wouldn't be surprised if he came in and was immediately the quickest player in the squad. What's Anfield Watch telling us today? Jermaine Pennant is dropping nuggets of wisdom, claiming that the player we should sign to replace Salah is Leroy Sané. Now, just to have a quick... Now, I love Leroy Sané. He's a fantastic player. He's 28 years of age. He's 28. And while he is productive, he's not blow-away productive in the Bundesliga. And he's constantly dealing with some sort of injury. Like this season alone, he's had 3 different injuries. Last season, he had a knee issue, a torn muscle fiber. Season before, coronavirus. Season before that, a capsular injury. Season before that, cruciate ligament injury. Torn ligaments before that, nose surgery, a muscle injury, a hamstring injury, a hand injury. Like, he's got a page 2 of injuries. That's not ideal. There's just no way we would move for a player like Sané. Age, wages, injury history, they all count up to not be a player that we're going to go for. He's also better on the left wing than he is in the right wing. It's as simple as that. But he's never been as good for Bayern as he was for City. Never. At City, 17, 18, 18, 19, he was the best winger in the league other than Salah. It was him and Salah. If you're picking a best of 11 in the best of Premier League 11, they were the 2 wide players. He was sensational. And that City team were unbelievable in those 2 years because, in large part, because of him. And then he tore his ACL. And he's been very good for Bayern. Don't get me wrong, very good for Bayern, but not the same player he was for Man City before the ACL. So, look, Jermaine Pennant is a moron, so we wouldn't be listening to him anyway. Anfield Watch, piece on Tyler Morton. There's a piece about Leroy Sané from the Pennant quotes. Steven Gerrard caught up in bizarre Saudi club social media spat. Let's have a look. Reasons why Lloyd Kelly favours Newcastle over Liverpool revealed. Maybe because Liverpool aren't interested. I don't know. But I'd imagine it's just Eddie Howe. Piece about Emre Can getting to the Champions League final, and obviously Emre's been through the wars in recent years, overcame cancer. There's a piece about Harvey Elliott being backed to become Liverpool's Odegaard. I'm not sure who said this. Oh, Owen Hargreaves. Okay. Steven Gerrard has been caught in the middle of a bizarre social media spat involving his current club Al Ettifaq and their local rivals Al Qadsiya. Both sides are based in Saudi Arabia's eastern Great Dammam area, and yada yada. Oh, and it looks like this other side, they're backed by the Saudi oil group, Aramco. So that's interesting. Robbie Fowler was manager there. And that's it, right. He was doing all right, and they sacked him. Okay. Al Ettifaq put out a tweet. And it was basically a dig at the other side, been a yo-yo team. Yada, yada. And they shot back with a personal barb at They made fun of Gerrard falling over. Okay, they made fun of Gerrard slipping. That's fair enough. There's a piece about Darwin. There's a piece about Stephen Warnock. Yeah, that's not much there on Anfield Watch today. On anfieldindex.com then, we have a piece about Arne Slot and Michael Edwards. David Lynch talking about how the attack has been our weakest link, which isn't really true. We've missed a lot of chances, but the biggest issue has been we're conceding too many goals, too many early goals. Liverpool coach set to follow Jurgen Klopp's departure, youth versus experience. There's a piece about Darwin, who could replace him. And then podcast-wise, nothing new. There is the Stat Me Up with Ben Boxack. There is the latest Under Pressure. There will be a Scouted, hopefully recorded today, and should be out today. But if you're on the Discord, it will be there for you to listen while we are talking absolute bobbins. So I will see you all. Oh, there's also a Moby on the Spot being recorded tonight. Yeah, and a Buzz podcast or two been recorded after, but they'll be out probably over the weekend and next week. Yeah, that's it. We'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow, and you should have yourselves a pleasant Thursday because the sun is shining. And if it's not shining where you are, you need to move. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.